Aaron Lewis from Liberty Brett Norfleet here with Tommy Lepore here from Hello everyone, welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for another edition of YBMcast, powered by Game 7 Baseball, Game7Baseball.com. Great stuff coming up, fall's around the corner. I know everybody is getting their teams together. You know, I think fall ball coach, Kevin, ought to be just about, you know, if you throw a bunch of dudes together, go out and play some ball, enjoy it, have some fun, right?
Yep. Keep improving your game.
100%.
You know,
get some at-bats.
And I even say, let the kids make the lineup, see what happens. Right?
I don't know about that
one. Well, you never know what you might get.
Right. That's for sure.
I think it'd be a war over who's leading off, though, Coach.
Right. Back and forth.
So, anywho, get yourself over to Game7Baseball.com. Get yourself registered. There's some great tournaments coming up. Enjoy the fall, folks. All right, today we've got, as always, with us Kevin Mulder from Prep Baseball Report. Kevin, how you doing, sir?
Yeah, doing great. Doing great.
And Coach Perkins from Francis Howell High School. Coach, how are you?
Great. Thanks for having me again.
Always, man. Always. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on. You make me look good.
We try.
So we talked about Class 6. We're talking 2023. It's not too early to talk about these teams. We got 2023 coming up. And before you know it, we're already in August anyway, guys, right?
Yep.
It
doesn't take that long.
Schools have all started, haven't they?
Yeah.
Senior year has started today, or this week, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Exactly. And we're going to look at the top 25 or top 2023 Class 5. There it is. I'll spit it out in a minute. Schools. Your guys' thoughts, Kevin, you were down there last year in the Final Four. Your thoughts just from last year's Final Four?
On the 5A side of things?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. You know what? Honestly, it was first off, it was really good baseball. We had some surprises. Willard was a team that I kind of thought might be at the top of the heap there, and they lost in a thriller, which was probably the best game of that whole tournament outside of the Francis Howell 10-inning game that was
thanks for bringing that up.
Had you on the edge of your seats the whole time. I'm sure it was more fun for Brian and I than it was for Coach Perkins, but that was a great high school baseball game. I think he'd even agree to that.
It was fun to watch, Coach.
No doubt.
But Willard getting upset, so that was kind of surprising. But it was a really good run. Obviously, Platte has a strong team. Festus, Mason Shermer, freshman, pitching a championship game, did a great job. It was a lot of fun. And then, with the local flavor, Fort Zumwalt East, them making it to that point was really big for their program. So, fun tournament for sure.
You didn't see much of anybody else in that respect, though, did you, Coach? You were focused on what you were doing.
Yeah, I think the only Class 5 team I saw was Zumwalt South, maybe. Were they Class 5? No, they weren't Class. They were Class 6. They were Class 5 the year before.
Right.
That's about it. I saw Willard.
Did you?
We played them. Yeah, we beat them. Yeah, they're a good team.
Willard does. I mean, they were 33-8 last year. They never shy away from competition either. Willard will go play.
They won it 2 years ago, right?
Yes. Yeah, they won in 21. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes, they beat.
Willard falls in line with the Howell. They're going to be prepared. They're going to go play a big schedule, and they were in the Columbia tournament early in the season. They'll take on all comers. So you really respect that, and I look for them to be right back in the mix this year. They're always going to lose a couple, but they got a pipeline going down there, so they'll be restocked and ready to roll.
Yeah, I tapped Coach Hill from Zumwalt East about information, and he kind of gave me a rundown on some of these guys. But he said Willard lost 3 good arms, but like Coach Mulder's talking about, he does have guys in the stable, so there's somebody to be considered every year, I would say.
In Zumwalt East specifically, we brought 2 of their guys down to the future games. Jackson Carter, I've been talking about this guy for over a year. Arguably the fastest player in the state, legit 6'4" runner, and he can really run. Obviously, they're center fielder, and I think by the end of the year he was batting leadoff. And now he's been a 2-year starter for them. And then Eric Williams, strong third baseman that'll, I'm sure, hit in the middle of the lineup again. That hit for a good average last year. I think he hit about 420, 430. Strong kid, and so there's a dynamic couple pieces there offensively. I know they lost a couple of their key arms, but they also have some good young ones coming up through the system too. So.
Yeah, he said he lost 2 arms, but he says he's got a ton of position guys coming back. So
yeah,
he's optimistic, which is great. Good for him. If he gets it rolling, you never know. It's so hard to get there the first time, like to a Final Four. I mean, the first time that I experienced it was '91, but then, we did okay, but not great, and then it just steamrolls from there. Once you get there, it's weird because you lose guys, but there's still guys around that have had that experience, and understand what it takes to get there. And when they do get there, they're going to be better from what they did this last year.
I liked what Coach Hill did.
They know it can be done, right, Coach?
Yes.
and I like what Coach Hill did last year. He took a lot of his JV guys to that tournament. He took a lot of those guys that were going to be playing next year to that tournament.
For that reason. I mean,
absolutely.
Just to have experience it. You tell them, I bring some guys up too. It's like, you're not going to play. I mean, they have all aspirations of getting on the field and playing, but that's not going to happen unless there's a blowout in the situation. But they come along with you, and you tell them, if you don't want to accept that role, go play your summer team. Because once you practice with that summer team or play a game with that summer team, you're no longer eligible, to play our high school. So that's a big deal too. But I've had a couple kids made that decision to go play their summer ball team, but then all of a sudden we win state and they didn't get a ring, they didn't get experience, and I'm sure when you talk to them later, like, man, Coach, I screwed up. I go, yeah, you did. But that's why you do that, and he's doing the right things.
Yeah. I thought that was one of the things that really struck me. I saw a lot of those kids. I was like, that's smart, because there's still talent there. So one of the things I want to do real quick is I want to run down the list here from the Missouri High School Baseball Coach Association top 10 from the final top 10. Of course, Platte County won it. Festus came in second, Willard third, Fort Zumwalt East fourth. Then in number 5, you had Webb City. 6 was Parkway Central. 7, I think it's Helias, but everybody says Helias.
It's Elias.
Helias Catholic.
I would have said Helias too.
Lutheran South, Glendale, McDonald County, and then others receiving votes was Camdenton and Smithville. And, those were all teams we really talked about, which, Lutheran South got in there, and I think that was kind of one that I don't think people saw coming around here as much. I didn't, and here they are. And I started looking at Lutheran South, and I thought, Lutheran South, and I'm going to start here with this, really struck me when I was looking at all this information. They are returning a team of 23s and 24s. They had one senior on the team last year, period.
Yep. That's what Coach Hill said, that they got everybody back and they look to be the team to beat.
That's pretty impressive when you're returning that many kids, isn't it, Coach?
Makes life easier on a coach.
So right there, in my estimation, that becomes something that you got to deal with when it comes to players. And when you're looking at a roster, the only kid that, like I said, that you graduated was Charles Helt. And then you go to and you start looking at the kids that really made an impact for that team. Offensively, Michael Lind hit 400, Mac Floyd 375, Connor Fleeg 367, Logan Slinkard 342. I mean, it goes down the road here. These are all kids that are coming back next year, going to be in this lineup that are going to be offensively and pitching-wise. They got all their pitching staff coming back. That's a team that is poised to make a deep run, correct?
Totally agree. When that happens, it's a good thing, and you know they know that they can play. You know, and they end up in the top 10, and they'll come in loaded for bear when the season starts. I'll bet you.
Kevin, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's kind of what you're looking for. You can't really design that, but when you get into that situation as a coach and you got a team that played a bunch as sophomores and juniors and they all return, that is a recipe for success, certainly.
And that's why I wanted to start out with that, because that's the one that really struck me the most, was how many kids were coming back, and that just was like, wow, that's impressive. So just starting off watching that team, unless injuries take effect, you know, think that which can happen. Anything can happen that way. But, I mean, wow, it's impressive.
Another team just slightly outside the top 10 that we mentioned them as receiving votes. I think Camdenton's going to be strong again. Coach Durnan has 3 boys on that team. The shortstop, Cam, is going to be a senior. He's going to sign with Wichita State this fall. Caden, who's a third baseman, but mostly an arm in terms of college, will be a junior, and then they have a freshman that started varsity. The youngest brother will be a sophomore. So I think that's going to be an extremely talented team there, coming out of the kind of more the middle of the state, out of the 5A level.
Let's look at number 1. Team that won the championship last year. I had a chance. Coach Sipes sent me some information. I reached out to him. He was gracious. I want to get Coach Sipes on the show talking high school preview. I think that'll be a lot of fun. We can get a little more look at the other side. We got a chance with Coach Dave Wilson from Staley last year. I want to get those guys because I love looking at the other side of the state because there's a lot of really good baseball over there.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Kevin.
No, I was going to say with that, Platte County probably starts with Devin Wassman, who's committed to Wichita State. We've known about him for a number of years. He's been on that varsity team, I believe, the whole time. Physical, super physical, left-handed bat, strong kid, outfielder for him, and coming off a big season. So I think it probably starts with him. And the other kid that caught my eye, and I hadn't seen him before until the state tournament, is Dane Wimberly. Kind of a wiry, athletic kid with a big throwing arm. Threw a couple kids out down at the state tournament on plays from the outfield. So I like the pieces they have. Now they lose Landon Folk, the left-hander that was dynamic for him. He's your orange cleat guy. Brian, if you remember that.
I do.
Said, well, this kid is going to have to be good, and it turned out to be good. And if you're going to wear cleats that ugly and that bright, you better be good,
dude,
right?
Those things were beautiful. Oh, shoot. So, yeah, exactly. And, he's a coach said he has 12 returning players that saw significant playing time last season, 6 of them being everyday starters. So, I mean, you still got to plug, what is that, 3 holes, 2 holes,
4, yeah.
And then your pitching staff. He talked about second baseman Dayton Dole, who was just a freshman last season. Yeah, so he's got some kids. And so, again, I think when you start seeing teams like this, and we've talked about this a lot, is what you're seeing is a program being built. You're seeing the kids effectively going through the process. They're getting kids with talent in play and getting them opportunities, which is helping them succeed year after year, being in the conversation, right?
Mm-hmm. No doubt. No doubt.
Anything to add, Coach, to those guys?
I don't really see those guys a whole bunch. That's why I'm kind of stymied a little bit, but I know their coaches, a lot of their coaches, just through my relationship to the Coach Association. And it's neat to see, the guys that come to the Coaching Association clinics and stuff like that are the guys a lot of times you see in the Final Four, because they're the hard workers and the grinders and always trying to get better and working really hard with their groups. And, they're going to be good just because they work hard at it.
And he brings up here, Kevin, his 2024s that he's looking to make an impact. Of course, you brought up Devin Wassman. And then he's got Braden Carter and a catcher, Tyler Stearns. And also he said his shortstop, Brian Chandler. So he's got some kids there that he's really looking to elevate their game to make another run.
Yeah, you know what? And that's the thing that's great about this level. You look at players for what they are today, but 7-8 months from now, that's a really long time for a high school kid in terms of development. So one of these kids that's undersized or weak or has an 80-mile-per-hour fastball, they go through a winter of off season and hit a growth spurt, get stronger, get maybe more committed to the game. You see stars born over the wintertime that you didn't know was a star as we sit here today. So that'll certainly happen to kids across the state. And, I'm sure Coach sees that. He knows a kid, and he comes back a year later, and all of a sudden he's 3 inches taller, looking Coach straight in the eye, and, all of a sudden has some definition in his arms and can drive the baseball, and he goes from hitting eighth to batting cleanup maybe, So it's that happens every single year.
And it is tough to go back. I mean, you see it, in the bigger schools sometimes, but it's not an easy task. I mean, the one year we won, we beat Jeff City in the championship game, and the next year they came back and they won it. That was a testament to his team and his, ability working with those kind of guys. But it's not easy. I mean, you just can't say, well, we're going to be a Final Four team, and because it's just that one and done thing that Misha does. It's rough. I mean, you got to be awful lucky besides being good.
Well, from what we saw, and to your point, Coach, from what we saw at 21 to 22, out of Class 5 and Class 6, there was one team that returned, and that was Willard, right? Am I I think that I'm correct in that, right, Kevin?
I believe so, yes.
So that goes right to your point. All the Final Fours, there was, out of 8 teams the next year, Willard was the only one that returned. And that's a testament, as you said, to them and what they had from the year before and coming back and putting that together. They won it in 21, but lost in 22. So finishing third, they won the third place game. But I think that makes a big impact on how you approach the game. And year after year, you're dealing with what you have in the school as opposed to recruiting and things of that nature. You're dealing with the kids that are in your district and working with them, and hopefully they're working on being good ball players.
Yeah, you just take what walks in the door from year to year. But, those kids that are coming back, though, I mean, you got to pay attention to them, and you can't take anything for granted, that's for sure. You got to earn every little out and every little hit.
Number 2 team, and just kind of come out of, in my opinion, we hadn't talked about Festus that much during the season last year. They got on a run. They've got some 23s returning next year. They're returning 8 23s from last year's team. Hayden Bates is a 2024. He hit 394 last year. Mason Shermer, who's also a pitcher, he's at 25. He hit 342 last year. Jackson Gross, Tyler Bizzle. They got 3 of their top arms coming back, and Ian Brown, Nate Moore, and Mason Shermer. So I think Festus has an opportunity to make another deep run.
Yeah, Coach Hill.
They had a lot of guys coming back, and obviously, in my opinion, led by Shermer, who's the Missouri commit, and started the championship game for him as a true freshman and hit kind of right in the middle of the lineup. They do have some other really key pieces. The Bizzle is a frontline player for him, and Hayden Bates had a great year as a sophomore. We started mostly at shortstop for him. So that's a club that's gonna be dangerous because they have the experience, and all those kids are a year older. So they should theoretically have a better ball club this year than they were last year, and obviously last year was a good team.
Yeah, Coach Hill said they only lost 2 position guys, but their 4 main arms are back. So it's somebody you got to pay attention to, especially when you got 4 good arms.
Well, that's the thing.
That's what it takes.
If you've got that much pitching in your depth, right? That's I think the recipe there. You might be able to plug another guy in and at the bottom of the order and keep everything moving in that direction. But pitching, man,
That's where it all starts.
It's huge.
Because starts and ends.
Yeah.
You need that big time guy. When you get into districts, when you get into the quarterfinals, when you get into the Final Four, you need that. And I think, and when I say big time guy, it's not just the stuff, but it's this. You need that guy that wants to go out there on the mound, right?
Yeah, and compete. Yep, and not afraid to play in front of a decent crowd. I mean, a lot of times you don't see a bunch of people in crowds, but if you get in those big game settings, it just makes things easier. The more often you do that, just like we're talking about showcases, and just the more you do it, the better you're going to be at it. Same thing with your games. If you're playing in big game settings and you're getting 400 or 500 people, maybe that's going to make you better. And how are you going to react to that? How are you going to be able to throw strikes and zone all that out? You're talking about the mental side there, and zone that stuff out and be able to compete in that situation without thinking about somebody heckling you from the left field bleachers. I mean, you got to deal with that stuff.
That might have been me. No, I'm kidding.
Could have been.
So I think Festus is right there. A lot of great talent coming back. Willard, of course. I don't know much about what they had, Kevin. I'm going to rely on you, and I know you've got a little more information. You follow them a little bit more. I don't have as much, Coach. You might have some there.
Just for what Coach Hill told me, he said they got lost a lot, but they got 3 good arms, so there's that starting point again. So they know they got guys that can pitch. They always get some guy that's kind of goofy too, the way throwing sidearm or throwing from down under, or just different looks in their deliveries. They always seem like they got one of those guys, submariner.
Yeah, 100%. It's almost like a college type bullpen. Because they'll have the different type looks. It's not all just this guy's throwing 86, so he's my top guy. Then the guy throwing 83 is my number 2, and the guy throwing 80 is my number 3. They'll have guys that are submarine. Massey's he'll be back. He was one of the lead guys on the mound for him, and they've had some young talent roll through the program. So it's kind of an assembly line that they have there, and teams usually very well coached. So I would expect nothing but the same. Sophomore Landon Moore was a sophomore infielder for him, was a standout, hit like 347 for him. So they'll be just fine. I know they lost a couple good ones, but they will be right back in the mix, I'm certain.
Yeah, the whole staff spoke after they won it in 21, at our clinic, 22, and you could tell there was a lot of energy. He had like 5 or 6 coaches up there with him, talking about their season, how they do things, and they were energetic, they were knowledgeable, they took turns talking, so you can tell he delegates a little bit. I know he does quite a bit in-game stuff, himself, but I think just from what I listened to, that he trusts his guys, and trusts his assistant coaches, and that goes a long way too, because the more people you can trust, and the better you're going to be.
That to me,
the star on their team will be Clayton Kaiser, who he'll be a senior this year, committed to Drury, big physical left-handed bat, also helped him on the mound. So, they have plenty of talent to go around.
I think I don't think personally you can count them out any year. Just like you said, from the coaching staff, we've talked about this. Kevin alludes to it all the time. It's about building a program. I think that's what they're committed to, is building the program.
Yeah, they work hard.
And I think one of the things that struck me in 2021, and I said this to Kevin back then, is how many they have a great following. They had fans, and of course Springfield's not that far, but how many young baseball players, how many young teams I saw at the park, even this year, there to support the team, root the team on, the kids watching. That shows you that they are invested in building that program.
Absolutely right.
So let's talk. Let's go to the Lions. Coach Hill, friend of the program. We'll call it that. I love that stuff. Coach Hill is, of course, I've known Coach for, my son played there, and he's got 8 2023s coming back. Of course, as we talked about, Eric Williams at the top of that, Jackson Penn, Jackson Carter. And the one thing I do like in the returning there is Jackson Penn, because you did lose 2 of your top arms, but you got your catcher coming back who had that staff. He's a senior, another year of experience. Mm-hmm. I think that's huge, don't you, Coach?
Absolutely. You have him. But he also did say that the 2 arms they lost were hurt at the end of the season and weren't throwing anyway.
Yes.
So those younger guys had to compete, and they competed pretty well just to even get to the Final Four. That's good stuff.
Well, and to his arms, Lucas McGill, who pitched those big games for him at the end of the season. I watched him, and this kid pitched his butt off. Beat Parkway Central, St. Dominic. I mean, come on, man. That's that's getting it done in big moments. He's not afraid of them. I really like Lucas McGill. He's coming back this year. You have Michael Gibson. Michael Gibson played a great relief role coming in and shutting teams down at the end. And then you have the 2025 coming back this year, and I think we'll probably see some. You can allude to this, is Carter Hollingsworth. Big, tall kid, frame. I think he throws in the mid-80s. That's a kid, I think that and he got to pitch last year on the varsity team.
It's good.
It's a valuable experience. And I'm going to throw another name in there, and you never count on a freshman. I'm not even certain he'll make the team, because every coach and program is going to look at this a little bit differently. But they have a freshman named Brennan Pyle that came with us to the Junior Future Games that is a dynamic talent, and he's going to have a chance to potentially create an impact sooner rather than later during his high school career. So it'll be interesting to see how Coach Hill plays that one. Mm-hmm. A lot of different ways you can go there. Obviously, the kid has to earn everything there. But as Coach Perkins knows, he had a freshman this year. You maybe don't count on them before the season starts, but as they earn their stripes, you look at a freshman like Leo Humbert, what he did, to help the Howell program out this year. It helps when he doesn't have to be the focal point. And Coach Perkins had a good, some other key guys that could be the stars, and you mix him in, and one day he is going to be the star.
Yeah,
but,
it is tough getting the freshmen involved. Leo was the 3rd player that I've had that started fully as a freshman, and a lot of them were in and out as a freshman, but there's only been 3 guys. Greg Rogers was the one, and Michael Hopkins was the other one, that actually started varsity for me for 4 years, and that's a 30-year deal. over a 30-year deal. I mean, but
it's a long time.
It is a long time. That's just telling you how rare it is to happen. But with if you get that freshman in there, you can talk about Leo, but he hit. I mean, he hit from day one. He started dropping bombs and like, this dude can really hit. So we carried that into the game, and he continued to hit and ended up hitting in the middle of the order for us all year.
It wasn't too big for him, was it,
No.
Coach?
I mean, when I go into that situation, I'm thinking, okay, we'll give him a shot early, see what happens. Might give him 3-4 games over in a tournament. We'll play that first tournament, Troy tournament. Maybe they give him some experience there. And if he's good enough, he's going to stay. If not, I just shape him back down because those kids got to play. That's the biggest thing, I think. I mean, you're not going to bring them up and sit them. I mean, there might be coaches out there who do that. I do not do that. I mean, to me, you got to play to get better. So if you're not starting for me as a freshman or a sophomore, you're playing JV ball. So that's what you do.
Yeah, and it's about the development, obviously. Even you can't stunt that kid's development. And I will say this: you do see the younger guys on varsity more at the smaller schools. So it's it's a numbers game, and
they have a smaller pool to pick from. Yeah, there's just not as many kids, so you take what you got. When I coached at the Class 1 level for 3 years, I mean, it didn't matter what grade you was in. If you can throw, catch, or whatever, you're in, buddy. You take what you get and you run with it.
And I think that's very, very, very real because you see more of that at the Class 4 and down. Mm-hmm. Class 5 is still in that place where, it happens maybe a little bit more frequently than Class 6, but still not as much.
Agree.
Right.
And I think that could be the linchpin if Pyle comes along. Because and as you were saying, Leo didn't have to be the star. And I think there's enough here. Eric Williams, Jackson Penn, Jackson Carter. They got Dare Riazzi coming back. He was their starting second baseman. They have guys. They have some leadership that he doesn't have to be the focal point of the offense, right, Kevin?
Right, yeah. You're going to have the returners there that are going to kind of lead the way and be the big names. And, I'm going to just put it back on Hal since Coach Perkins is with us. You just deal with Brett Norfleet, and he's going to draw the eyes and from an opposing coach or an opposing pitcher, and then Leo is, I've never seen or I've never played against this kid because he's 3 years younger. They don't even know who, and they learned quick, I would say, but it does help you break in when you have guys like that hitting either in front of you or behind you.
Yeah, there is a big dynamic there. I mean, as far as are the older guys going to accept the younger guy, or are they just going to make fun of him and run him through the ringer and do some kind of hazing or whatever stupid things they do, instead of, but Leo was very humble and kept his mouth shut. That's what's got to happen. Ty Sissel was the same way as a freshman. You to be smart, if you're smart and you're good, just keep your mouth shut.
Take it and move on,
and just go with it. But if you come in there cocky, and arrogant, and you think you're gonna run right in there and bat third on the varsity as a freshman, that ain't gonna work. I mean, the players will run you out if the coaches don't. They police themselves.
That's a fair thing, though.
It is.
It's a fair thing. Next here, I want to move to this team because it's one I think that could be a big still right there in it, and one that Kevin talked a lot about Parkway Central. I think Parkway Central, Sean Kang, I watched him and Joe Siervo in that district championship game with East. I don't care who was thrown. They couldn't get those guys out. I mean, I don't know. I don't care what you threw up there. These kids were hitting in the gaps. They were just ringing doubles. Boom, boom. I love Sean Kang. I watched him play one time. This kid can hit.
They have two arms back, Kevin. Is that right?
I believe so. They lost some key pieces, obviously. Siervo is one of my favorites. Not necessarily the best player in the area, but one of the favorite guys to watch. Super high energy. He's going to Jeffco. They'll have Siem Young Song back, who had a strong year as well, offensively, hitting about 350 with a bunch of doubles. I think he had like 13 doubles or so. So they're going to be right in the mix along with Kang. So that it's going to be a strong team, but it is going to look a little different because, in my opinion, their linchpin is gone. But still got plenty there. You got the twins. Luke and Zach Amzika are back, so they have Pete certainly.
And to your point, pitching wise, Luke Amzika, he had a 3.03 ERA. He was as a sophomore was 4-1. He threw well. They lost some guys, but you got is that pronounced Teakins? I think it is Takins, Ryan Takins. Not sure how it's pronounced.
Go with it, yeah.
Sorry, bud. If I blew it up, let me know. Go ahead, Kevin.
And Kang is certainly going to be the linchpin this year. If he was kind of a co-captain, co-leader last year. He does it from behind the plate. He does it in the middle of the lineup. I say, so he goes, so they go type thing.
Yep, I agree.
Excuse me. But they got Lucas Levy. I think it's oh man, Jonah Leuterstein. There's another one.
You're doing good.
And how'd you pronounce Sengming?
Semnung Song.
Semnung Song. They have some arms coming back, Coach, as Coach Hill alluded to.
Well, good.
They do have some guys coming back.
Yep.
I don't know if it's good for the rest of the folks. It's probably good for Parkway Central.
Good for the Colts.
But looking at that squad, they've got some guys, but they only are returning 3 juniors from last year. And so it's a younger team. Could be interesting to see how that works out. They might have a little more of a struggle this year. It just depends on how these other guys step up. But they do have some very high-level talent coming up and playing there, as Kevin said. It's true. And like I said, Kang, that kid is for real.
Good. We used to play them.
Did you?
Yeah, they got smaller, I guess, and we got bigger.
That happens sometimes.
I guess.
It
was always good games. Especially when they had Brady Feigl pitching. Oof.
They've had some good ones roll through there.
You got that right.
Any more thoughts there on Parkway Central, Kevin?
No, I think we hit the main players, and like we just have talked about before, it will be interesting. It'll be an interesting offseason. I'm sure some kids will rise to the forefront. You just never know who those are. Heading into the year, like the fall.
There's a team down in the Southwest that I think I want to keep my eye on because I think they're poised to make a pretty good run. Probably challenge the Willards, the Webb Cities down there, and that's Glendale. They've got some good young talent. They look good. They had a good season last year, and I think Glendale's right there.
We played Webb City, and you can tell. There's only I asked him how many kids played football, and he says there's only 2 out there that doesn't play football. You could tell they're all big, strong kids, but they played hard. I mean, that's it's traditionally a football school, but it was us, Webb City, and Rockbridge on a Saturday deal, and we didn't blow them away by any means. I mean, they competed and they played hard, and they had some strong kids. Like I said, they're all football guys and. They're not afraid to play. I mean, they're playing up against us in Rockbridge. They're not scared.
And Glendale has one of the more talented players in the state. This kid that started varsity as a freshman, 2025, named Sebastian Norman, infielder / pitcher, upper 80s on the mound, and he's also a 6'4" runner, maybe barely slower than Jackson Carter, but it's close. In fact, Jackson I had at a 6'4" 1, Norman at a 6'4" 3. and big, physical, strong kid with a
You don't see that.
100-mile-per-hour exit velo to go with it. So that's a
Okay.
name to watch, and he will for sure be a Power 5 type talent, and potentially a draft guy multiple years from now.
So I'm looking forward to that, especially in the Southwest there in Class 5, because Willard has always kind of been that. But I think Glendale's getting in there, of course. I think Webb City's still Class 4, though. Am I correct? Or they No, they're Class 5. Shoot, what am I talking about? My brain just went. So Webb City right there. The other one that I want to kind of you mentioned Camdenton. So let's kind of look at that. The coaches' sons are there. That team can possibly, again, I think they're poised to be right there in this mix when you're talking about Glendale, Webb City, Camdenton, and Glendale. That's going to be a tough situation down there district-wise.
Yeah, and is Republic 5A?
No, I think Republic 6. As far as
6A, okay,
yeah, I believe so.
Yep. So yeah, that area has been really strong. They've put out some good players. Obviously, Willard won the 5A 2 years ago. This year they won third place. So it's they're going to have a team out of the 5A level that's going to have a chance this year.
The one that kind of still sitting right there, Blair Oaks was moved up to Class 5 last year, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And Blair Oaks is has one of my favorites, senior Will Lippert, who's going to have a chance to be a draft this year. Left-handed pitcher up to 93 and flat competes. He's a throwback, hard-nosed guy, so they are going to have a chance anytime he's on the mound, and he also swings the bat. And they have a couple other pieces to go with him. So that'll be a team right in the mix in the middle of the state.
And I think Blair Oaks, they struggled a little bit last year. I think they'd moved up from Class 4, they went to Class 5. And anytime I think you make that class jump up, it's tough. I don't care. It's just tough. And so it'll be interesting to see how they've adjusted their talent level, what that does for them if they're still in Class 5 this year. Here's another team that I think we got to watch for in our area. I'm not sure yet. I think it's going to happen just based on some of the conversations I've had. Because I think they were a Class 6 only because of like 10 students last year. And if their class count is where it's at, I think Zumwalt South is probably going to go back down to Class 5.
That's what Coach Friedel told me.
Yeah.
He says they can compete in Class 5.
And with their talent level and what we saw last year, I think they're right in the mix in Class 5. Agreed?
Oh, 100%. They had four sophomores starting in their everyday lineup. And they're a good 6A team, but they're a team with a chance to make a run at state in the 5A level, I would say.
Mm-hmm. There's a couple other teams too, Westminster and St. Dominic. I mean, Westminster is always good, and Coach Hill told me that both them teams have two, legit arms coming back, and Westminster got a couple power arms. Coach Moeller probably could expand upon that, but Westminster's always got a good team. There's no doubt. So you got to throw them in a conversation, along with Dominic. Being the biggest private school in the state. Of course they got girls too, but they've been making a lot of moves too. I mean, they got a lot of really good players.
Yeah,
those will definitely be both teams to watch. Like Coach said, Westminster's always strong. They have some good seniors. So it'll be interesting to follow. Max Mantel's an upside arm for Westminster, 6'6", right-hander that's up to 90. So had a good year last season. If he takes another jump, that could kind of be a linchpin type guy for them. So it's going to be. In St. Dominic, I mean, they were really strong last year. Obviously, I'll be the first. I had them winning that 5A game versus Zumwalt East, and they got upset. But that's a really strong roster.
And you got Gavin
Richards.
Yeah. Gavin
I was
Richards.
about to say the Oklahoma commit, who was banged up a little bit last year, but should be back healthy this year. So it'll be fun to keep an eye on all of that.
Mm-hmm. I think so. And I think Westminster, and again, this goes to this, last year was their first year up in Class 5. They were Class 4 the year before. And no matter what, talent-wise and whatnot, there's an adjustment. Yeah, you can go out and play a tough schedule and stuff like that, but that consistent level of talent that you're rising to, I believe, makes a big difference. And, they probably didn't have the talent they had the year before, right? But still, there is an adjustment to those things. I think that'll be there. I think they'll be much better this year.
I don't think that affects them too much because they played.
You don't think so?
They played them with them particularly because they play big schools and they were in the Midwest Classic, for a few years. Then they decided to go down to Florida, so they got out of it. But so I got to see them quite a bit, and they won 4 state championships in a row. There's something to say about that, and there's some tradition right there. Bam, you got tradition, So, but they're not afraid to play anybody, and that makes them better. I mean, they may lose some games, but that's baseball.
There you go. That's the man right there. That's one you want to listen to.
I don't know about that.
I'm hurting his feelings over here. He's like, no, man, don't do that. Hey, look, there's a lot of I'm sure there's some teams we've missed as well. There might be somebody out there. Platte County on that side. I'm not sure of some of the, we got them in there. Blair Oaks in the middle of the state. Are we missing anybody on that side, Northwest, Kevin, Class 5? That we should be looking at?
I don't think so. St. Pius has been strong, but they've been down lower level. So there are some smaller schools that have been big names that you never know until the enrollment. Parkway West was 5A 2 years ago. Last year they were 6. Eureka can sometimes be on that board. So you never know until we see where those teams are placed too.
After the first week of practice is when we find out, which is silly, but that's where it's at.
We'll talk about that later, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's hard sometimes to talk about the smaller schools because you don't know who's going to fall in well. It's real easy to talk about Francis Howell and Staley and CBC and Vianney because you're right where those guys stand. They're going to be in 6A and from here till the end.
Mm-hmm. And it goes to what we just talked about here for Zumwalt South. I didn't expect them to get bumped up, and I really thought Zumwalt South last year they were in the 2021. They had a good, solid team. I thought they had another chance to run back to the Final Four at the Class 5, and then boom, all of a sudden they're Class 6, and you're like, wow, I did not expect that.
It's a little different world.
Yeah, I did not expect that. So we got some good stuff there for you. We hope you enjoyed that. As always, these guys bringing and dropping the knowledge. We appreciate Coach Sipes over at Platte County sending us some information. We look forward to having Coach Sipes on the show, talking some more baseball from the western side of the state. I think that's fun. We'll hope we get some more stuff from down in the southwest as well. And we can't forget the folks down in the southeast. I think there's going to be a little more smaller schools, so you get into the 4A schools a little bit more. Is Cape Girardeau 5A, though? I think they are.
I believe they are.
Because that's
if we're talking 4A, Kennett will be a strong contender again this year.
Yeah, they just kind of are really kind of
Cape was always with us for a long time.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Aren't there 2 schools? Because there's Central High School down there in Cape Girardeau now too, correct?
And then Jackson, which is just north of town there.
Yeah, we talked about Jackson. They're going to be good.
So it kind of it changes the landscape when you start adding high schools. Just like we're going to see. There's one that'll be interesting to watch the growth, as we've talked about. North Point over in Wentzville. That'll be interesting to see how that shapes up and shapes out as the baseball program grows there, and the talent level. So it's a lot of good stuff happening in baseball around here. A lot of good stuff. Guys, thanks as always. Appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
Absolutely.
Everybody, have a great day in the Lord. And remember, all you pitchers, keep throwing strikes. And you hitters,
hit them where it ain't.
That's good advice. We'll see you all next time.